Somewhere in the open Pacific, a great white shark is carrying a perfectly circular wound cut by something it never saw. These are not the headline predators. They do not hunt through size or velocity. Each species here has solved the problem of killing through a mechanism so specific that the prey had no evolutionary framework to survive it. The ocean offers 8 of these solutions. None of them look like what a shark is supposed to be. Cookiecutter Shark. Deep water hides a parasite that hunts through misdirection. On its ventral surface, bioluminescent photophores emit light at the precise wavelength of downwelling sunlight from above. Viewed from below, the silhouette vanishes, mimicking the outline of a smaller fish. It does not read as predator, it reads as prey. A great white closes the distance. The contact feels like a minor collision in the dark, but the physical trauma is already complete. Fleshy lips lock onto its flank, creating a hermetic seal. Inside that pocket of negative pressure, a retracting pharynx pulls the skin taut. The lower jaw, carrying 31 fused teeth, bites down. The creature rotates its entire body. It does not tear, it cores. A perfectly circular crater, 5 centimeters wide, stripped straight to the bone. The attacker has swallowed the cylinder of meat and vanished before the host registers the strike. The same wound has been documented on sperm whales, orcas, blue whales, dolphins, and tuna. It attacks everything in the ocean. When the United States Navy began finding identical craters on the neoprene sonar domes of nuclear submarines, it took years to identify the source. Common Thresher Shark. Under pressure, sardines compress into a rotating mass, thousands of bodies moving as a single fluid wall, closing every gap faster than any predator can bite through. The formation is nearly impenetrable. A shark circling the outside has one realistic option: wait for the edges to loosen. The Thresher does not wait. It does not approach with its jaws. It swings its tail, a structure that accounts for half its entire body mass, in a violent overhead arc. The tip reaches 128 kilometers per hour. At that velocity, the surrounding water cannot fill the vacuum fast enough. Pressure drops so sharply that the water momentarily vaporizes into bubbles. They collapse in an instant. That collapse, cavitation, sends a focused shock wave through the mass. It does not bruise. It detonates the swim bladders of every fish in the blast radius simultaneously. Dozens stunned or killed within half a meter in a single strike. The Thresher circles the wreckage and feeds at leisure. Goblin Shark. In the abyss, chasing prey wastes lethal amounts of energy. The ambush must be instant. Suspended in absolute dark, it detects a crustacean. It does not swim forward to close the distance. It detonates its own facial structure because the jaw is not fused to the skull. It is held back by elastic ligaments under extreme tension. When triggered, the entire jaw apparatus snaps forward, bridging the gap at 3 meters per second. It protrudes 10% of the shark's body length. The teeth grip the target before the crustacean's nervous system can process the shift in water pressure. Once the trap closes, the disjointed face retracts into the skull, hiding the mechanism until the next strike. Longnose Sawshark. On the seafloor, a flatfish drives itself into the sediment, tail first, then body, until only the eyes break the surface. It has erased its visual signature completely. Against most predators, this works. The sawshark does not use eyes. It sweeps the seafloor with an elongated rostrum, a serrated lateral blade studded with sensory pores along its length. These pores, called ampullae of Lorenzini, detect the faint bioelectric field generated by any living muscle. They read a heartbeat through solid sediment. Once locked, the execution is blind and violently lateral. It does not stab. The rostrum vibrates at high frequency, delivering rapid side-to-side slashes that accelerate through the resistance of packed sand. The flatfish is shredded inside its own grave before the remains are even unearthed.
Great Hammerhead Shark.
Neutralizing venomous prey directly on the seafloor is a high-risk operation. Stingrays carry a barbed stinger capable of piercing bone. To counter this, the predator has reforged its skull into two distinct instruments: a broadband electroreception array and a hydraulic battering ram. The cephalofoil extends the sensory grid across a 2-meter sweep, pulling faint bioelectric fields from buried bodies below. When the target is located, the skull converts to blunt force. It slams down with the kinetic energy of a 50-kilogram steel beam, pinning the ray to the seafloor and physically immobilizing the stinger. With the weapon trapped, the jaws close at 500 pounds per square inch without facing a counterattack. It is a purpose-built apparatus, reforged over evolutionary time for a single adversary. Tasselled Wobbegong.
Something moves across the reef. A moment later, a jaw the width of a dinner plate appears from the substrate, and the fish is gone. There was no approach, no movement, no warning signal of any kind. What appeared to be a section of coral was not coral. Fractal skin patterns and dermal lobes dissolve all physical edges against the substrate, casting no shadow. The predator is optically absent from the environment. When prey enters the kill zone, the pharynx expands in milliseconds, collapsing ambient water pressure in the immediate space. The suction is so extreme that prey nearly the predator's own mass is inhaled before its nervous system can register the shift in the current. Prying the jaw apart guarantees massive tissue avulsion. It swallows the catch without relocating. The ambush site and the feeding site are the same point on the reef.
Greenland Shark.
Under the Arctic ice, water temperature drops below the biological freezing threshold. Biology here should crystallize and shatter. Instead, a 400-year-old predator drifts through the dark. It survives because its tissue is saturated with trimethylamine oxide and urea, suppressing ice crystallization in the blood. It moves at under 3 kilometers per hour, a speed that guarantees absolute acoustic silence. It does not chase. It drifts into the acoustic blind spots of sleeping seals and consumes them whole. Any predator that feeds on its carcass ingests the accumulated chemical load and suffers neurological failure within hours. It is a slow killer, encased in its own toxicity.
Bull Shark.
The highest testosterone levels ever recorded in any vertebrate belong to a saltwater predator. It uses them in fresh water. Saltwater predators die in fresh water. The cells suffer osmotic shock, swell, and rupture. To cross the threshold, this predator forcibly halts salt excretion the moment it enters a river mouth. The renal system recycles urea back into the blood to offset the diluting freshwater. Hyper-aggressive, chemically armed against its own environment, it patrols murky, zero-visibility river systems with territorial precision that has no upper limit. A single bite delivers over 1,300 pounds per square inch, enough to shear cleanly through a human femur.